Hey everyone, Jared Sandler, happy to bring you another Rangers Q&A with the Rangers reporting to summer camp yesterday, and with the first official workout taking place tomorrow. Wanted to reach out and get your questions, so thank you to those of you who submitted your questions on Facebook, Twitter, also Reddit. Starting to use some of the Reddit forums to get questions. If you submitted a question after the fact, I'll do my best to answer it or include it in a future Q&A. But you can always reach out to me at Jared Sandler on Twitter is probably the best way, and certainly happy to interact, answer questions, or just have a discussion with you. All right, so these questions really in no particular order. This one coming from Kyle. We've got a two-parter. Will people ever shut up about the design of Globe Life Field? Well, the answer to that, Kyle, is probably no, because no matter what you're talking about when it comes to sports, really, I guess when it comes to life, there's always going to be, two sides, and there are always going to be people who want to express their displeasure. So probably not. And then the other question, do you see ownership changing in the next 5 to 10 years? I get asked that a lot, and I just don't know. I'm not sure what the intentions of the ownership group are when it comes to that. I really can't say that I know, Ray Davis well at all. I definitely have talked to Neil Liebman, and listen, Neil's around a lot, and he lives in Houston, so I say that to say this. I think he really does enjoy, this role as he's the chairman of the board and part of the ownership group. But I really just don't know. I'm really not sure the answer to that question, what their intentions are. And then Kyle also asked, what would you do differently about the park moving forward? I don't know. I think as we break the park in, things might become evident. Like, hey, it'd be cool to improve this or improve that. My thing all along is it's going to take some time for fans to view that park as home. Because, for the last 25 years, Globe Life Park was the home of the Rangers. And, I think the new park, Globe Life Field, is super nice. And the quality of everything inside is so well done, from everything I've heard. And it's beautiful on the inside. And but, are we going to have those elements of the park that we identify with right away? No, that's not going to happen. It'll take some time to break it in. And I'm excited to learn what those unique elements that we connect with are, just like we had the porch in right field and Greens Hill, and even things like the wiffle ball park that we used to have out in left center that people would share stories about, when you talk about going to Globe Life Park. Or maybe it's a certain vendor, you used to have the hot dog guy. And as you start to have games played there, you start to allow the park to develop a personality. This from Joe. What's your over-under on Major League Baseball actually completing the 60-game season, including playoffs? I don't know if that, what the number, the over-under part of it is. Are you asking over-under on games played, or it's simply if I think it's going to happen? Listen, I'm skeptical about all sports, to be honest with you. I think it's exciting that we've gotten to this point with baseball, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed, certainly, that people stay healthy enough and we're able to not only launch but complete. But I'd be lying. I don't know, how to put a number to it, but I'd be lying to you if I didn't admit to some degree of skepticism just with the way things are proceeding and some of the challenges that have been put in place because of it. This one from Bill. Rangers predicted record and playoff possibilities. I'll just go with what you're seeing in Vegas for a predicted record. I mean, they're saying I'm seeing between 28.5 and 29.5 wins. I personally think that this team will get to 500. And, it's so tough to know which team over a 60-game stretch is going to be able to ride that wave early on and maybe get a few extra wins than not than they would get, over a 162-game season, but I don't know that the winning percentage will be proportionate. I think there are going to be teams that have a winning percentage much higher than their 162 would be, and much lower. And it's all about whether you ride that wave or maybe you totally miss that wave. So I definitely think I'll say this: I think the Rangers are going to be in the playoff hunt for sure. And do I put it at 50% for playoff likelihood? it's probably a little bit below. Let's call it 40%, but I do think they have a strong chance. And honestly, if they can get hot and maybe get a 6 to 8 game winning streak within the first 3 to 4 weeks, I think you're looking at a really strong possibility this team makes the playoffs. This one from Reddit. I apologize, I'm not sure. I think it's Ilmeave on Reddit. What should we expect for counting stats in a shortened MLB season? If we expect Gallo to hit 40 in a normal season, does that mean we should expect 15 in 60 games? Well, yeah. I mean, if you want to really fully portion everything out based on a 162 game rate, then yeah. I guess you're looking at 15 or so. I think it's 18 and a half or something around that is an equivalent to a 50 home run season. The difference, though, is that, again, over 162 games, that's a long enough time for guys to get hot, but also guys to get cold and to normalize. Over a 60-game season, you might have a guy get hot and not really ever get cold. So I don't know what to expect. I do think that someone will get to 20 home runs. I think one of these big boppers, whether it's Gallo or Pete Alonso or Aaron Judge, if he's healthy, Giancarlo Stanton, if he can stay healthy, these big bopper home run hitters, I think someone can get to 20 because they're just going to get hot. And they're not going to necessarily have the 162 game season to normalize. So I think that they're going to be guys who end up maybe exceeding what their 162 game rate would be in some of these stats. It's going to be, listen, it stinks that, for guys that have, X straight seasons with 40 or more of this or 100 or more runs or whatever, that this year's probably going to cut those short, and maybe you can have an asterisk, obviously. But it will be interesting to see what some of those numbers are, what levels people reach. This from, I think, JSU718 on Reddit. With fewer off days, is everyone going to go to a six-man rotation? In the event of either answer with three strong starters, is that going to help the Rangers or flatten out the advantage? So I don't know that I don't know that they're more or less likely to go to a six-man rotation. I think maybe early on with a 30-man roster, you could see that. I don't think the Rangers will. I think you go to a six-man rotation if you feel like you've got six really, really good starters. You've got an embarrassment of riches there. I think the Rangers feel like they've got five. Not that the others, not Palumbo and Allard and some of their depth guys aren't viable options, but I think the Rangers are in a position where they want to use the five that they've got. So I don't think that they're going to use a six-man rotation. I think that, you'll see teams maybe try get creative with the way they utilize their pitching. But as far as will the starting rotation help the Rangers, listen, I don't think that good players will hurt anyone. Does it limit the advantage because, the idea is over 162 games, you can keep things nice and steady with the rotation they had? I don't know if it limits the advantage. I think it's a different advantage. I think the way we characterize the advantage is different. For instance, for me, the benefit of having the rotation that we believe the Rangers to have from a quality standpoint is that, the chances of them hitting a cold streak with these guys healthy is a lot lower. It's not a rotation like the ones Rangers have had in the past where it's like, gosh, you just hope that Cole Hamels gets the win because you're not confident with 2 through 5 thereafter. That's exactly not the case at all. And so I think that's where it could help you lose 6 straight in this 60-game set. I don't know what the percentages are, but my guess is your playoff probability craters. Whereas if you lose 6 straight in a 162-game season, so what? You got plenty of time to make that up. So avoiding those bad stretches is going to be really important. I think the rotation will help them do that. This from Anish on Reddit. Wondering what the future for us is at first base with neither Guzman nor Bird stepping up. Was wondering if you had some options in mind, whether it's in-house or through trade or free agency. It's a great question, and this is maybe the most interesting puzzle piece to fit in as we progress through this month. Here's my guess. If neither Bird nor Guzman really steps up and just promotes confidence in a big way, I think you see Danny Santana play first and Nick Solak play center. if this was a 162 game season, you maybe have the ability to be more patient and say, hey, for the first few weeks, we're just going to kind of give guys 4 to 5 starts a week. We're not going to give Guzman or Bird 7 games a week. We're not going to necessarily give Santana 7 games a week, maybe 6 for him. We want to rest Chu, give him 5 to 6. But you don't have that luxury. You got to hit the ground running. At least, from a lineup construction standpoint, you do. And so if they're not confident in Guzman or Bird, then they might hit the ground running, trying to get all the bats that maybe offer more confidence in the lineup, and you can do that by Solak in center, Santana at first. Someone asked, why not Santana in center, Solak at first? Santana's simply taller. Solak's like 5'9", maybe 5'10". Santana's got a couple inches on him. He's just a little bit of a bigger target. So that's probably why. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is this. Every year there are guys who crush Arizona, Cactus League, or Florida, the Grapefruit League, and then the season rolls around and they look like they haven't played baseball before in the month of April. Conversely, there are plenty of guys who look like they've never seen a baseball in their life in the Cactus League, and then regular season rolls around and they're just fine. So I don't know what to make of that when it comes to Ronald Guzman or Greg Bird and how the Rangers will approach that. But they do have some interesting decisions to make in that regard. As far as external options, it's tough. I just don't know to what degree player movement will exist in this shortened season. I don't know how much free-flowing trading we're going to have, especially as we creep towards that August 31st deadline. I don't know. I'm not saying it won't happen, but I think that especially early on, you're more likely to find internal options. You're going to have to solve problems. All right. From I've Known It All on Reddit, I'd love to know what odds you think the Rangers have of retaining their pitching staff next year. The Rangers were touted as having a chance to be the best rotation in the division this year, but with the shortened season, we won't get much chance to see it. So, Mike Minor's a free agent. Lance Lynn is not. Corey Kluber has an option. Kyle Gibson's under contract. Jordan Lyles can be under team control for next year as well. I think a lot of it depends on the confidence the Rangers have in guys like Colby Allard. And, with Brock Burke's injury, that's one guy that's not probably going to be a part of the equation when the season starts next year. Certainly won't be. Joe Palumbo, can he stay healthy? Are those guys ready? If not, then you're likely to see 4 of those 5. As long as they're healthy and what, depending on what the Rangers choose to do with Kluber's option, if they don't get traded. My guess is Mike Minor's an interesting case because I don't think the free agent market is going to be as gracious to free agents. And so if that's the case, maybe Mike Minor, a guy who does value comfort and doesn't need to be under the spotlight, the glitz and glamour in New York, maybe he does come back. I'd say under a normal free agency, perhaps he doesn't have the Rangers wouldn't put up the money that he could maybe get elsewhere. But I don't know how to predict this upcoming free agent market. So there's a chance the Rangers bring him back. I just think a lot of it is the Rangers' control as to how many of these guys come back. And I think a lot of that will be determined by, what they do in the offseason, which external candidates they particularly like, and what they think about the growth of their internal candidates. This from Hannah. Curious your thoughts on Lance Lynn being selected as the opening day starter as opposed to Mike Minor or Corey Kluber. Do you think it's a reward for how well he pitched last year in the spring, or more that he's a workhorse and they're not worried about overextending him? It's a good question, Hannah. So first of all, if Corey Kluber pitched last year and was a Cy Young caliber pitcher for the Indians, maybe he'd be under consideration. But the fact that he's new and didn't really pitch at all last year took him out of the running. And a lot of times this is an honor. It is an honor to be the opening day pitcher. And a lot of times it's a salute, not just based on performance, but the work that person did for your organization. And so I think that's kind of why Kluber's out. Again, if he would have won the Cy Young last year, he's probably the opening day starter. I think with Lance Lynn, it comes down to a few things. One, Chris Woodward identified the fact that Minor got the opening day start last year. Lance Lynn's never had that honor, and he wanted to give it to him this year. I also think that Lance Lynn kind of embodies the attitude and the demeanor that they want to demonstrate on the mound and in the clubhouse. Lance Lynn is the leader of that rotation. It certainly was last year. That's not to take anything away from Mike Minor. That's just not Mike's personality. Lance is the bulldog workhorse leader. Just get in line and follow me type of guy, and I think there's something to be said for that. Lance also, after April 23rd, was the better pitcher. It was incredibly close, and full season, Lance did certain things better. Mike did certain things better. They both had great years, and I think it's just a way to salute Lance and give him the chance to do something he's not done before. This from Outlaw on Reddit. Curious what kind of a rotation Woody's considering for the shortened season. Would this be a good way to experiment with the opener and then go into the traditional starter, 6-man rotation? Well, I already shared why I don't think 6-man rotation, and I don't think opener is going to be a fixture. However, I will say this. The word creative was used in that question. I think a lot of people right now, coaching staffs, the managers, front offices, they're considering all different creative options because I think a lot of strategery is going to come into play here with this season. The opener is typically used to be a Band-Aid when you're not really confident in the starter you have. And a part of the identity for the Rangers is that they've got 1 through 5, a really strong rotation. However, let's say Kyle Gibson is facing, the Oakland Athletics. And maybe he just doesn't match up well at all with the first 3 in their lineup. Or maybe he faced them earlier this year and just got rocked, and it was the top 3 who did it. Perhaps the Rangers would consider that for like a specific case. But I think in general, they wanted this type of a rotation for a reason. And I think a team like the Rangers may be less so inclined to utilize an opener, certainly not for guys like Minor, Lynn, Kluber. But maybe for very specific cases, it's something they could consider. For other teams, I do think you're going to see the opener used where they think that they might have holes in the rotation. From Tristan, if the season were to start today, how would the pitching rotation shake out? Well, you got Lance Lynn, Mike Minor, Corey Kluber, Jordan Lyles, and Kyle Gibson as your 5 starters. Tristan also asks who would be considered the bona fide closer. That would be Jose Leclerc. And then who are the day 1 starters at each position? I think the guarantees, as long as they're healthy, you've got Robinson Chirinos catching, Rugi at second, Elvis at short, Frazier at third, Gallo in right, Calhoun in left, and Shu DHing. And then I think, where Santana fits is a question. Is it center or first? He's going to be in the lineup. The question is where. And then after that, it's, who is the first baseman? Is it Guzman? Is it Bird? Is it Santana and thus Solak in center? I think those are the questions that are going to have to be figured out. From Olaguer, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Are any Rangers mentioned that they won't be playing? And Dr. Cheeseburger also asked that same question. I have not heard that. Kyle Gibson, from a medical standpoint, is someone who maybe fit under the category of underlying conditions with his ulcerative colitis. However, he has indicated he plans on playing. Things can change, though. It's a very fluid situation, and at the time that I am recording this, we have not learned of anyone who does not plan to play. From Brian, which prospects that made the 60-man camp roster could we see in the bigs this year? All right, so we're going to go 3 levels here. The nose, the guys who I'd be really, really surprised if they see big league action this year. Sherten Apostle, Josh Young, Anderson Tejeda, Wes Benjamin, Sam Huff. Guys who I think have a chance, but probably not right away. Leody Taveras, Alex Spees, Andy Ibanez, and Eli White. And then guys who I think have a really strong chance of breaking camp with the team, and if not, I'm almost certain they're going to play at some point. Taylor Hearn, Jonathan Hernandez, Jose Trevino, and DeMarcus Evans. This from Jonathan. How does the bullpen look? I haven't heard much about the relievers, or if there'd be any competition for closer. What's your opinion on the state of the infield as well? So we'll start with that. The bullpen, I think there are a lot of question marks in the bullpen, and I think a lot of that starts with the closer. Jose Leclerc 2 years ago, one of the best relievers in all of baseball. Last year, inconsistent. I think, his age and his stuff certainly suggests that he can be the guy he was 2 years ago, but got to see it in that closer's role as opposed to the setup role. After that, I think the Rangers are really going to rely on Nick Goody and Rafael Montero. Nick Goody to bounce back, Rafael Montero to maintain what he did last year. And then, which guys are going to step up? Is Jonathan Hernandez, a guy who throws a 100-mile-an-hour sinker, going to be able to have a big impact? Are you going to see a guy like Taylor Hearn or DeMarcus Evans, maybe an Alex Spees, provide way more than what was anticipated? Jesse Chavez, can he kind of have that similar versatile role and do it effectively like he's done for the Rangers? I don't know that you look at the Rangers and say, I know exactly that I'm going to get great things from this guy, and this guy. I think there's a wide margin for this bullpen, and the bullpen's going to be really important, no doubt. This from Walter. Jonathan had one other question. How do you feel about the views, looks, and angles of Globe Life Field, excuse me. So the pictures from the inside look beautiful. I'll be honest with you, I have not been in about 9 months. I was purposely waiting for my first time to truly go in to be for an actual game, and obviously that has not happened. So I'll be there on Friday for camp. I'll get to see it there, but everything I've heard is that the inside looks absolutely beautiful, and certainly excited to see it. From Walter, just saw teams like the A's are offering cutouts of fans for a certain price. If there are no fans this year, do you think the Rangers would consider that? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not really familiar with exactly what they're doing or what, other teams' plans are. But yeah, I'd imagine teams would get creative in ways to connect with fans if fans are not allowed to be there. From Aaron, if the Rangers were to make it to the playoffs, who would they play first round and who wins? Well, they'd likely play in the wild card game, and I don't know. Tampa. I'll say Tampa Bay. And let's go with the Rangers winning. I'm not sure. And then from David, with the minor league season canceled, how will they manage replacing the players that test positive when half the team is in quarantine? So I think David is serious in asking that. There might be a little tongue-in-cheek there. Let's address the tongue-in-cheek part. If it gets to a point where a team has to quarantine half of their roster, the season probably is stopping at that point. And there's probably more than one team that is dealing with a number of guys in quarantine. That would probably get in the way of the continuation of the season. As far as, let's say you have a few and the season's moving forward, that's where you've got your taxi squad. You'll draw from those guys. And then guys who are not a part of the taxi squad have every ability to work out and to stay in shape. And you have the ability to make roster moves beyond that taxi squad. There are ramifications for removing a guy from the 60, but you can add if the need arises. So that's kind of what would happen. All right, I want to thank you guys and gals for all your questions. We'll be doing this throughout the season. Certainly have at least one more of these before the actual season continues or gets going. At Jared Sandler on Twitter if you've got any specific questions you'd like me to answer. Until then, great chatting with you. Thanks so much again for the questions and for the conversation. Look forward to talking to you soon.